Israel just launched a massive counter-terror operation into the Palestinian city of Jenin. After taking out with a drone strike a headquarters used for storing weapons and sheltering terrorists who had murdered Jews, the IDF has gone in with ground forces to arrest a multitude of terrorists. Is this the start of a larger scale war on terror in Judea and Samaria? We're going to break it down for you today on today's show. I'm Josiah, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Welcome back to the show, guys. We have a lot to talk about this week, actually, because big things are happening here in Samaria, particularly northern Samaria. We're going to get to that in just one second. But first, make sure to subscribe to the Israel Guys if you enjoy our content and you want to help it get out to more people, help us grow here on YouTube. If you're watching us on Rumble, thank you very much. Make sure to hit that follow button. And also check out our social media pages. We're on Instagram and Twitter, putting out a lot of really good content there. We're also on Facebook as well. Hey, and actually something very new. If you want to join our WhatsApp breaking news group, we just started a WhatsApp channel. Israel Guys Breaking News. We're giving you a lot of information, sometimes before it even gets to YouTube, kind of firsthand stuff from what's happening here in Judea and Samaria as well. The link for all those will be down in the description below. All right, guys, a lot of things, big things actually happening here in Samaria. Israel just launched a counter-terror operation into Jenin. And this seems like this could be the start of something of sort of a larger scale war, perhaps, on terror here in Judea and Samaria. Terrorist attacks have been happening more frequently in the last several months and weeks. It's been growing. Unfortunately, it's a very horrible reality for the Israelis living in this area. But unfortunately, this has been the reality on the ground, and the terror attacks are increasing in number and in force. So the IDF going into Jenin, which is what they did last night, late last night, early this morning. They launched an operation into the Palestinian city. You could say it'd be the terror hotbed city of Jenin, which is in northern Samaria. Samaria is north of Jerusalem. Judea is south of Jerusalem. And Jenin is right in the very north of the Samaria region. So the IDF launched a pretty large operation and into this city. The operation started with several drone strikes at very specific terror targets inside of Jenin. And then the ground forces came in right after that, entering Jenin from several different points to obtain their objectives, locating specific terrorist sites and terrorists themselves. I think Israel at this point has a very long list of wanted terrorists. And they know where a lot of those are inside of Jenin, and they're going in to arrest these guys. And most of the time, these guys do not allow themselves to be arrested. They open fire on the IDF, which turns into most of the time into a gun battle, where with the IDF ends up the terrorists are themselves killed in these gun battles. So kind of give you a rundown of timeline of how things have progressed so far. The IDF at 1:16 a.m. tweeted that the IDF has now attacked a terrorist infrastructure in the Jenin area. More details to come. At 1:40, they tweeted, security forces are now working in an extensive effort to counter terrorism throughout the city and in the Jenin refugee camp. So they're not only working just in Jenin, but inside the Jenin refugee camp itself, which is, if you could say, if Jenin is a terror city, hotbed city, then Jenin refugee camp is like the hotbed of terrorists right there. A lot of terrorist factions operating in Jenin, and a massive amount of them are inside the refugee camp in Jenin itself. At 2:12 a.m., the IDF tweeted, actually along with this photo, we'll throw it up in just one second, but the tweet goes, as part of an effort to widely thwart the removal of the threat of terrorism in Judea and Samaria, the security forces attacked a headquarters that is the unified headquarters of the factions in the refugee camp in Jenin and the operatives of the Jenin battalion. The headquarters was also used as an observation point, as a gathering place for armed terrorists before and after terrorist attacks, as an arming area with weapons and explosives, and as a contact and communication center for the activists. In addition, the headquarters served as a shelter for wanted activists in connection with the attacks in recent months in the sector. So this headquarters that they located and struck and destroyed was actually the unified headquarters for many of the different terrorist factions in Jenin itself, including the Jenin Battalion, which I believe is one of the most well-known from Jenin, hence the name, the Jenin Battalion. But that terrorist faction has been responsible for many, many attacks in the recent months. Saying this headquarters was also used as an arming area where the terrorists would gather before an attack, arm themselves, go out, murder Jews, come back, and then they would come back and hide themselves here in this area afterwards. And I'll show you this photo that the IDF tweeted. This is a map of this terrorist headquarters that they destroyed right here. You can see the little red box kind of in the center towards the top of the photo. That is the terrorist headquarters. It looks like it's probably underground, maybe. Maybe it's right there as well, under a house or something. But right across the street, you can look at this, there is probably 20, 30 feet away, there's a school, an UNRWA school right across the street from this terrorist headquarters where they're operating out of with weapons, with explosives, going out to kill Jews from this headquarters. Just down across the block, maybe 50, max 100 feet away, is a medical center. A medical center right there. And then down the street, just another 50 feet or so, there's another school. And let me tell you, this is very intentional on the part of these terrorist factions, on the part of this jihad, this terrorist jihad. When they go and then they make this headquarters, and they're probably trying to hide, it's probably very secret headquarters. They put it right in for one, a very, very populated area. For two, they always try to place it right next to some sort of a school or hospital. Many times they're in the basement of schools and hospitals. In this case, is right across the street. And they do this very, very intentionally because the IDF has very, very good intelligence, as we know, and they're very good with locating where the terrorists are hiding, locating their weapon caches in different places where they're storing these weapons. Intelligence is very good. So when they were looking for terrorists, they most of the time are able to locate these terrorist headquarters. Eventually, they'll be able to find them, and the terrorists know that. They know that the IDF will come in and eventually find them. They're not going to be able to hide forever from the IDF's intelligence, so they place their headquarters right next to children. They place it right next to unarmed civilians in a place where there is a ton of civilians, in this case, right in the center of a refugee camp. In these refugee camps, if you've ever seen them, if you've ever been here to Israel, you can see some of these refugee camps in these Palestinian cities. And there's thousands of people, I think tens of thousands of people that live in this tiny, tiny neighborhood, sheds. It just looks like a dump, really, like a trash heap. But these people live inside of this area. And the reason for that, we don't have time to get into it today, but the reason for that is not what the media tells you. It's not because Israel forces them to be there. It's actually the complete opposite. Don't have time to get into that today, but the terrorists are placing their headquarters right inside this very, very populated area and right next to schools, so that when the IDF goes in and they need to take out these headquarters and they're trying to locate these weapons and stuff, that if the IDF were to strike this, the terrorists are hoping that children will get killed in the process. Their own children who are in these schools and in these the civilians, maybe ill people in the hospital, that these people will also be killed in the IDF strike, so that the international media and world governments, the UN, Amnesty International, all these people will pounce on Israel and say, look, you're committing war crimes. You're killing innocent civilians in these areas. Israel is the evil bad guy that is going in and just trying to kill people at random. The terrorists know this. They know the mind games. They know the way that the media narrative works. And they're very effective a lot of times in making these things play out. But the thing they have against them is that the IDF is one of the most moral armies in the world. The IDF is very, very conscious about civilian casualties, and they avoid it at all costs. There have been multiple videos shared here in Israel. And the IDF goes into these areas to strike these terrorist locations, and they've ended up aborting the missions at the last minute. Like the drone is there, the missiles lined up ready to fire, and they'll all of a sudden see a child running down the street, maybe 100, 150 feet away, that could be in the blast area. So they say, no, abort the mission. There's a child coming down the street. We cannot fire. So this happens a lot here, but the IDF is very, very conscious about avoiding the casualties. In this case, they pinpointed exactly, and they struck the target and struck it hard. So far as I know, there have not been any civilian casualties reported from this specific strike inside from this map here. So kind of progressing through a little bit later this morning, the IDF tweeted out, the IDF and Shin Bet have been operating in recent hours in a limited and focused operation in the city of Jenin to counter terrorism. Again, at 10:20 a.m., the IDF tweeted, IDF aircraft attacked terrorist infrastructure targets more than 10 times and armed men in the Jenin refugee camp. In addition, the forces destroyed a laboratory for the production and storage of explosives. So they're taking out weapons and the terrorists themselves. This is kind of the latest information I have from the operation as it's progressing. As we're recording this show on Monday, July 3rd, here in the morning. So more details will be sure to follow. The Israeli National Security Advisor, Tzaki Hadnegbi, made a statement this morning as well on the operation. I thought what he said was very, very good. He said, quote, Jenin has become a sanctuary city for terrorist operatives, and the intelligence that has been accumulated has indicated that there is an effort by Iran and its proxies, Hamas and Islamic Jihad, to transfer a lot of money and weapons to terrorists. The IDF and the security forces are now working to attack terrorist operatives, explosive laboratories, and rocket manufacturing centers based on high quality and accurate intelligence, and with the aim of avoiding harming those not involved as much as possible. End quote. So that was the National Security Advisor, Tzaki Hadnegbi. But saying that the IDF has a lot of intelligence about what is going on with these terrorist factions, and that Iran and its proxies, Hamas and Islamic Jihad, are funneling a ton of money into these terrorist factions, these small operatives, you could say, these terrorists that are going out to kill Jews. They're funneling a lot of that money in them, incentivizing and pushing this wave of terror forward, you could say. The last I heard, kind of the goals or the successes of the operation, that there have been 4 Palestinian terrorists that have been taken out so far in this operation, with many, many more arrested. I think some of them have been wounded as well. The question is, where is this going to lead? Will this indeed be the start of a broader scale, you could say, war on terror here in Judea and Samaria? I think a lot of people here are very much hoping for that because of the horrendous wave of terror that Israel has been experiencing for the last 6 months to a year, maybe even longer than that, 18 months. This wave of terror, I think a lot of people here are kind of fed up, and they say, no, the IDF needs to do whatever it takes to go in, declare war on terror, and root out these terrorist entities in these Palestinian villages. Kind of get a clue about what's happening right now with this operation from the IDF chief spokesperson, Brigadier General Daniel Hagari. This is from the Jerusalem Post. I'll just read this. Daniel Hagari said early Monday that as of now, the operation is focused on Jenin, but that it could expand to other parts of the northern West Bank, known as Samaria. According to Hagari, the strategy of the operation was to root out a deep and systematic developed terror apparatus in Jenin, which has grown over several months and has gone way out of control. He said over 50 terrorist attacks emanated from Jenin, and over 19 terrorists have tried to escape there after carrying out attacks. So Jenin has been a hotbed for this. 50 terrorist attacks have emanated from Jenin, and that 19 terrorists have tried to flee there to hide out after they committed the terrorist attacks themselves. So he's saying he's not really giving a definition here, like we're going to stop or we're not going to continue, but he's saying that it could expand to further parts of Judea and Samaria, and it could be a broader scale operation / war on terror inside of Judea and Samaria. Every child has a dream to become something extraordinary, to uncover their God-given talents and bless the world. But for Ukrainian orphans now living in the land of Israel, these dreams are in jeopardy. They need our help to build a brighter future. Imagine a child without parents, without the love, care, and support they deserve. It's our duty as believers to heed the Bible's call to care for the orphaned, mentioned more than 20 times in Scripture, and to shun neglect and oppression. Today, you have the power to make their future brighter. By adopting Ukrainian orphans, you provide them with the essentials they desperately need: food, clothing, shelter, and most importantly, love. Your support will guarantee their transformation. But this isn't just about fulfilling a moral obligation, it's about fulfilling God's commands. By caring for these orphans, you are obeying His call to care for the orphaned, refugees, and the poor. It's an act of righteousness that carries immense blessing. By adopting an orphan, you will provide them with the physical and emotional stability they need to build healthy lives here in the land of Israel. You will honor God's commands, fulfill the prophecies of bringing the exiled back to their homeland. It's a chance to make an eternal impact. Click the link in the description below to donate now and become a beacon of hope for these vulnerable orphans. So I just wanted to talk about real quick something that you will not hear in the media about this story in particular. That is that there have been reports from Palestinians in Jenin this morning that they received warning messages from the IDF that they were going to come in and to take out these terrorists. One of these messages read, "Security forces operating in the area against militants, stay at home and protect your family." So Palestinians living in Jenin received these messages from presumably the IDF telling them, hey, we're coming in to take out terrorists. So stay away, stay inside your house and protect your family. Basically, we do not want to harm you. We do not want to accidentally harm innocent Palestinian civilians. So stay away from the terrorist headquarters, stay away from their houses, different things like that. Stay inside your own home and protect your family. Where have you heard that ever before? Have you ever heard CNN reporting on this? Have you heard even other places, the New York Times, the Washington Post, these liberal networks? They never tell you that the IDF goes way out of their way to avoid civilian casualties. And this particularly is rather kind of crazy, considering that just 2 weeks ago, the IDF was ambushed by a massive explosion, hitting one of their trucks and injuring 7 IDF soldiers. So for the IDF to go in and warn the Palestinian residents that they're coming in to take out these terrorists, it's sort of suicide. Could be suicidal for the soldiers going in, because some of these Palestinians are going to be, yes, I'm going to stay inside my house, I'm going to protect my family. A lot of them are going to be like, oh, I'm going to alert the terrorists that I know, maybe my brother or my uncle or a friend of mine is part of these terrorist faction. I'm going to tell them the IDF is coming, and then they could alert their friends and they could prepare some sort of ambush for the IDF soldiers. And the IDF knows this. They know that when they do this, they're putting themselves at risk, but they're still willing to do that in order to avoid innocent civilian casualties. Have you ever heard that in mainstream media? I guarantee you have not. Also, something else I should note is that Israel is actually preparing for potential rocket attacks from Gaza in response to this operation into Jenin. Unfortunately, the terrorist factions in Gaza, they take every opportunity they can get, any excuse they can get, which still not an excuse at all, but excuse in their minds they can get to attack Israel and to shoot rockets at Israel. This is very much a thought in the defense establishment here in Israel, so much so that the IDF has actually sent a warning both to Hamas and also to the PIJ, which is the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the two main terrorist factions inside of Gaza. They sent a warning saying, don't intervene because you are not the target. If you shoot, we will respond harshly. An attack would be a mistake, and we will respond with all our might. I think that's a very, very good play on the part of the IDF saying, do not get involved and do not shoot rockets at Israel. This is no excuse for you to shoot rockets at Israel. There's never any excuse for Hamas or the PIJ to shoot rockets at Israel, but specifically because we're taking out terrorists, this is not a good excuse, and we will respond with a fury. I think they're sending a pretty clear message to Gaza that it should not attack Israel. All right, guys, we got to wrap up here, but I just wanted to quickly note that actually Syria, Israel's kind of facing, you could say, threats from many different sides, but Syria actually shot an anti-aircraft missile into Israel early Sunday morning. I think just about around 1 a.m. Sunday morning, a lot of Israelis reported that they heard explosions from many different parts of Israel. An anti-aircraft missile was launched from Syria into Israeli territory and ended up exploding in the air somewhere down south, close to Beersheba. Parts of the missile were actually found later in the Bedouin city of Rahat near Beersheba in southern Israel. So that Syria is northern Israel, up north in Israel. So it shoots across into Israeli territory and comes all the way down to the south of Israel, south of Jerusalem, and explodes near Beersheba. Thankfully, no injuries have been reported. And in response to this, the IDF has struck an anti-aircraft battery in Syria just several hours later, sending a clear message: do not mess with Israel. We will indeed fight back, and the IDF is ready to defend the state of Israel. Guys, thank you for listening today. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe and let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. We love interacting with you there. But remember, as always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back every day, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.